Now let's kick off this conference with a bang. Our first speaker doesn't need any introduction, but his story to success, will to overcome, achieve, and persevere absolutely does. Derek Greene, the owner of Get Your Move On, has been in the moving industry for over 18 years, excelling in high-end moving services and extreme customer satisfaction. He has successfully grown his company from a one-man operation to a thriving full-service moving and storage business with a fleet of over 18 trucks. So presenting to you all today to kick off this conference, from adversity to achievement, the unyielding climb to success. Everyone, please welcome Derek Greene. How's it going, Derek?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Super excited to have you, my man, and it is all yours. We're turning it over to you.
All right, I appreciate it. I've got my notes on this screen, so you may see me looking over here. My name is Derek Greene. Thank you for introducing me, Ryan. You know, I was kind of reflecting on my life and my business when I was putting this together. You know, my hope is that, you know, I share my experiences today, and hopefully you guys can learn something from them. I'm not here to give anybody advice. You know, most of us are not on this conference call because we were Rhodes Scholars at the Wharton School of Business, as you can imagine. So we were learning it the hard way. We're banging our head into the wall every day at work. It's a tough business. But I would like to inspire you guys to know that you guys could have a life beyond your wildest dreams from the moving business, and you can do it in a single lifetime. If you're a first generation mover, you know, you can travel the world, you can have fancy cars, you can get a big house, and there's lots of guys that are doing it. But you do have to stay focused and stay on the ball. So, you know, the one thing I've never done is I never quit. I never gave up. You know, everybody knows how difficult this business is. Everybody knows how many kind of, you know, roadblocks and hurdles that you will hit in this business, and how difficult it is to perform and execute at scale in particularly. But I just, every day, I'm just trying to move the ball forward a little bit. And I don't get sucked into the results. I just keep working and keep doing the things that I know, the actions that are going to take me to the next level. So I'll tell you a little bit about my origin story. You know, I got into the moving business like most of us because I had no education and very few opportunities. I had learned a good lesson from my football coach about potential and how it's the worst word in the English language. I squandered it all. I kind of fell into substance abuse issues my senior year, and I really didn't recover from that for about 10 years. So I pretty much burned my 20s down on a moving truck. My life was complete chaos. I ended up with 2 kids and married to a woman whose laughter was like nails on a chalkboard, and I was not happy when I sobered up. I did start my business kind of in that fog of drug and alcohol abuse. So, you know, I wrote my business plan. I remember I was on meth when I wrote my business plan, and I remember writing it on a spiral notebook. And, you know, I had went to the Tempe Public Library. I had rented this book called How to Write a Business Plan. It was such a basic title to a book. I cannot find it because the internet, if you write how to write a business plan book, there's probably 10,000 results. So I don't know what book it was, but I did from chapter 1 to the end chapter, I did everything this book told me to do in writing a plan for the business. And at the end of the book, it said, okay, now go tell everyone you know about your business plan. So I'm on the dock over there at this warehouse I worked at delivering furniture, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll tell my warehouse manager. So I told him about my business plan, and he said, oh, you should talk to this guy named Manny. He does these out-of-state deliveries for us. And, you know, at that time I was making $12 an hour, but because of that little book, I had already filed my little LLC. I got my business account. I had no customers. I had no truck of my own. But that introduction, doing what the book told me to do, you know, resulted in an opportunity with this guy, Manny, who was able to kind of bridge that gap between having no truck, no credit, no money, and becoming a contractor for him doing these out-of-state deliveries. And it was a grind. It was very difficult, hard 4 months of being on the road. My girlfriend at the time became pregnant, and I had to figure things out. I had to get home and I had to get my own truck. So long story short, I got through, everybody's got that little origin story, and it's always like a real humbling start to everything, and I always kind of think back to that as I go through the phases of growing the business, and just remember how so many different times I had set some marker that said, hey, when I get to 3 trucks and 8 guys, I'm really going to be rich. Or, when I get to this next point, that will never stop. So please enjoy every step of the way. It is just a fabulous experience to run a moving company and learn how to run a business in this industry. Become a student of business, because if you do those things, your business will grow and you won't have fatal errors. We've had some really bad things happen in this company in 18 years, as you guys can imagine. And every day it seems like there's half a dozen fires that have to be put out. They seem to be on the surface very stressful. But you just walk through everything and you just do your very best. All we can do is the next right thing. And, I've continuously done that, since I got started. So I want to talk a little bit about doing things right from the start. I had a friend whose mother was like this big time CPA in town. She had a big CPA firm, and she found out I had started this business, and she kind of approached me like, hey, I would love to help you, mentor you with your business. And one of the things she told me was to do everything right from the start. So that meant, get insurance. That meant, get workers' comp, employ my employees as W-2 employees, get a set of QuickBooks from day one. All these things that seem like administrative headaches, and they cost money. They don't result in any profit or revenue. They're burdensome depending on what state you're in. We're in a very unregulated state here in Arizona, but different states have a lot more regulation. I suggest, if you're in the beginning phases, do not play games with using 1099 labor, for instance. All the shortcuts, I never took any of the shortcuts. And I think as I've gone through the different phases, it's allowed me to jump from, 3 to 5 trucks, 5 to 10, because I had the foundation, I had the infrastructure, I had a business model that was not inflated because I was paying my payroll taxes, right? I was reporting my cash I was earning, so all those things in the short term look like they have benefits, right, to your immediate cash flow, your immediate business model. But those things are going to hold you back. And the bigger you get, the more difficult it's going to be to make those difficult decisions when you have 15 1099 employees. I mentor a lot of guys in moving. I talk to a lot of small companies on a regular basis, and they are stuck sometimes and they can't get off of the truck. So that mentor, going back to the mentorship thing, she really saved my ass for a long time moving forward. And I have repeatedly over and over again found new mentors at different phases of my business, because every phase of business you get into, you don't know what you're doing. The game is a new game. You don't know how to play it. You're trying to figure things out. You've got 1,000 things going on every single day. And you know, I don't have the answers, so I have to go find them. And I have found that mentors are the most objective, cheapest, because they're free, way to get the information that I need to move my business along. So in saying that, I'm also like a bootstrap when it's early, right? So those things are expensive to do the things the right way. Give you an example. Our trucks are white. We don't spend, you know, $7,000 wrapping our trucks. We got our logo on the side. And so I'm kind of, I don't like a bunch of frills. Our office is not decorated like an interior design firm. You know, we're more like built like a mechanic shop, very blue collar. You know, I try to be extremely efficient with our finances. So in the early days, you know, do what you can with what you got, right? So I'm a fan of bootstrapping in the beginning. Getting on the truck, you know, the first 4 years I was on the truck 80 hours a week, Monday through Sunday. I just didn't have an off switch. The most important thing from that is like I learned how to do exactly what we were doing very, very well. I mean, I had been doing it since I was 18, 19, and at 24, I felt like, you know what, I got the wrapping and the loading, I got that down. But being on the truck, the most important thing for me is I was listening to my clients. I was in their homes, I was doing the moves, I was listening to what they were saying. They're talking about all their pain points. Oh, the last movers, they didn't show up on time. Last movers smelled like smoke. They broke something, they didn't fix it. So you will hear all of the problems that your clients care about. And as I'm doing that, I'm processing it and I'm thinking about it. Okay, how do I build the solution? I want to solve that pain. How do I build that into my company, into the culture of my company? You know, putting my customer first. I read a book early on, and I'm going to give you probably 3 books to read. Raving Fans. It's kind of like a funny little allegorical story or fable. I don't know what you call it, but it's short enough for a meathead like me to read. And it had some really good concepts. And I just decided early, no matter what, I'm never going to break paths with a client where they say, you know what, I wouldn't do business with that company again. That's a very difficult thing, as you all know how ridiculous clients are. Sometimes I think I'm like, we got the craziest clients in the world, but I know every person that owns a moving company is dealing with the same thing. So that's kind of one example of how to like take your experiences on the truck and make sure you build your company to solve all that pain. Another thing is slow and steady wins the race. We haven't had any breakout 100% year-over-year growth ever. We've had some 40% year-over growth at different stages, but it's really like a staircase. Each time you grow, you start kind of losing control of stuff. You're running that car in the red all summer long. The car's breaking down, you know, the springs are falling out, tires are flat, engines bubbling over. And so then you got to kind of rebuild stuff, and you got to put in the infrastructure and systems in place to try to even out. You'll make money a couple of years, then you'll lose money a couple of years, or get real tight, get flat as far as your profitability. But just know that if you keep moving that thing forward, you will, you know, I'm guessing a lot of the guys on the truck in this conference are still kind of on the truck a few days a week. You know, my goal was, I hated that truck. I hated being on that thing. I did drugs to kind of keep it fun for a long time. And when I got sober, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get sober just to be on this truck some more. So I had this kind of, my first vision was get off this freaking truck. So let's talk about the mentorship game a little bit. We've talked about doing things right from the start. So how to find a mentor. Just ask people. Find successful business owners, whether they're in your industry or not. When I stopped having that CPA, I went and found another accountant to be my mentor. And he'd take me to play golf every Sunday. He loved Howard Stern. I loved Howard Stern. We connected, and he taught me a lot. If you can find industry specific, that's great, but it's not necessarily the most important thing. Is just finding someone that you can go to once a month, tell them, hey, give me 12 months, give me 1 hour a month, I'll come to you, I'll bring coffee, I'll bring lunch. Most of them will say yes, you'll be surprised. And then when they give you advice, take the advice. Be coachable. Find a peer group, right? So I find the peers of my moving company owners, and also the peer group in my business owner group that I'm involved with. There's a great group called Entrepreneurs Organization. I recommend it to anyone. They have a smaller group called Accelerator for the little baby businesses. I was also involved with that. I've been involved with that for 14 years. Your competitors are your friends. In my city, there's like 5 or 6 really good independent local moving companies that we also do out of state, but we are like the tightest group, right? And we share a lot of information. I'm not afraid that there's not enough work for the 5 of us. Sure, we compete once in a while on a job, but I get the most benefit out of being really tight with those guys. Matter of fact, we're in a sublease together. So continuously look for those, finding the answer to every phase of your business using, peer groups, other moving company owners, get to know people, build relationships. So that's my little take on mentorship, and I'm saying it a lot because it was really crucial for me, and I've had a lot of mentors over the years. So keys to the success that I have had is finding my niche and going after it and being laser focused on it. I decided when I was first on the truck in 1999 that I wanted to work for the super wealthy, right? The high net worth family. I worked for a couple companies that did designer installations, and I saw that they were willing to pay a premium, kind of almost like a ridiculous amount of money to move my shit around. And I had decided a long time ago that that was going to be my niche. I didn't get distracted by commercial moving. I don't try to be the Yelp mover. We have a good reputation on Yelp, but I don't care about the Yelp client. They're not in my purview. I don't have to worry about building my website to serve a Yelp client that's going to call 10 movers. I know a lot of moving companies that crush it on Yelp, so they're focused on their reviews and their review fetching. So my point is, find that niche that you like, that you're very good at, that you're like believe in, and maybe other people aren't seeing it, and just go after it like a dog on a bone. And I think we've built by far the most sophisticated professional white glove moving company in Arizona, and we are able to demand a very high dollar per hour. And as you grow, it's really important to grow your dollar per hour, because you're going to incur many, many overhead expenses over the years. Biz development. I think there should be a college course on business development. I never saw one when I was not going to school, but maybe there is one. But building relationships, win friends and influence people. That is my second book recommendation. You got to learn how to build relationships with people. You got to learn about how to go out and talk about and learn from them about their day, about their business. You want to be asking questions and learning about them, and not telling them about yourself. That I have found has served me very well in building relationships with all the high-end real estate agents in Phoenix and Scottsdale. And I've been doing that for a very long time. So I love business development. And if anybody wants to learn more about how I do that, I'm happy to share that with them. Read, stay reading. I listen to audiobooks because I'm a super slow reader. I think I'm like 6 or 8 pages an hour, but I've read a lot of books and I've listened to hundreds of books. So stay in the books, because it's just always going to get something going that you're like, oh, okay, this is something I can focus on. I've had shiny object syndrome a number of times in my business, and it has continuously failed me. You know, try to start a software company, that didn't work. Try to do this, try to do that. And what it does is it takes your eye off the golden goose that you have, which is your real business that is financing everything in your life. So I am getting much better at saying no to these crazy entrepreneurial ideas. I don't really identify as an entrepreneur. I identify really as a moving company owner, because that's all I know how to do. Vision and goal setting. Here's your third book recommendation. It's called Double Double. Double Double is by a guy named Cameron Herold. It's about vision and goal setting. So setting your 3-year goal, like, here's what my life is going to look like, extremely clearly, in almost like a story way of writing it. So every couple of years, I'm able to sit down and spend some time and say, hey, what does my life look like in 3 years? What does my business look like? And it is very defined and clear. I remember when I was about 19, I was picking up some furniture from this receiving house in Mesa over here, and this moving company owner had a gym in his warehouse. And I was like, I was smoking cigarettes, I was high on meth, I was all fucked up, pardon my French. And I saw he was all healthy, good looking, in shape, had this little business, had this gym in there, and I could just tell he was making money. And man, I'll tell you what, that I was many years from starting my business, and I was many, many years from getting clean and sober. But that thought, that goal, that vision of having a gym in my warehouse, I hadn't even had a truck yet, right? I didn't have a warehouse yet. You got to have a significant size warehouse. My first warehouse couldn't accommodate a gym. So just having that like waypoint that says, hey, I'm going to have this, it doesn't matter what it is, but it was so wired in my brain that I just hung on to it for so long. So I just coming up with what that vision looks like, what does that why look like in your life, in your business, was really, really helpful for me. Writing your goals down. I mean, a lot of these things are simple, but these are just things that I took from those books or the advice or the mentors and actually did them. Write this stuff down. I wrote stuff down 3-4 years ago. Have more kids. I didn't even want more kids. I don't even know why I wrote the damn thing down. Now I got another baby, and I got a 17 and 14-year-old. So that stuff works. Define what success looks like. It can be monetary, it can be travel, it can be a lot of things, but your business is a vehicle to that lifestyle that you want, right? So I made a decision, you know, I was fighting this thing, can I coach the little league and run my business and grow it super fast? No, I decided I couldn't. I had to get clear that the window with my sons between 5 and 15 was much more important to me than having a rocket ship business. And so really kind of spending time reflecting on what is important. The business will take every last second of your time and your energy, and you got to like preserve, like remember why you're doing the business. The business is to make you a great dad, give you time to have the freedom to take your kids on ski trips and do all these amazing things. So really spending time on what does my success look like and at what phases, right? So it's going to look different for every person, and you got to get real clear about what you want out of your business and what you want your life to look like, and not be chasing around like what's on Instagram or how you want your life to be, or, you know, I just think that spending time in that double book and really reflecting and deciding, the clearer your goals are, the harder it is to get off track. So if you're in the middle of the desert and you don't have that North Star, you'll walk around for days or months and you won't know which direction you're going, and you won't go anywhere. But if you know, shit, I'm going to California, I'm going to Long Beach, California, and you know where that North Star is, and you know the direction of Long Beach, every step of the way, you'll have your compass to take you to where you're going. So if you don't know exactly where you're going, any way you go every day will take you to nowhere, exactly where you don't have a plan. So that's been something that's been important to me, is always like keep that written set of goals, and that's worked very well for me. My last kind of thing is realism, right? Realism and moving. Moving is not a sexy business. It's not an internet startup. There are absolutely, in my experience, no silver bullets. Most of the rocket ship companies that have had massive amounts of success very, very quickly, they sputter out. This is a business that has a lot of moving parts. We're in this business because we're not, you know, doctors, lawyers, engineers. You know, if we had a lot of business sense, we would have picked a different business from the jump, right? We're in this business kind of like our movers are in these jobs because we've made some mistakes, right? But we can, you know, if you stick to this thing and you fight it out every day, there's lots of guys and gals that are running incredible businesses. So it's just remember, it's scrappy. It's a dogfight every day. It ain't going to be easy. You got to protect your reputation. My reputation is the most important thing to me, right? I am never going to have a realtor out there saying, God, that guy dicked over my client. That will never, ever happen, right? I've written checks for $15,000, $20,000 to clients because I said to them at the end of it, I was like, you know what? I didn't earn your business. I didn't earn it on this one. It was expensive lesson. And everything that's wrong with my company is 100% my responsibility. I can never blame anyone. I can never defend myself. I own it. It's my responsibility. And when stuff is rough and stuff is bad, I got to jump in. I got to talk to that client. I got to talk to those movers. I got to be down here. I have another experience to share about taking your hand off the wheel, so to speak. So I had I had kind of groomed a very good management team over a number of years, and I had a GM in place, and I was burned out, and I spent a couple of years doing, basically I was the CMO, the marketing manager from home. I didn't go to the office much. I would go down to the office like about 2 hours, 2 days a week. I traveled the world. I spent tons of time with my sons, in like the best time, you know, that I've had when they were like in their little preteen years. And I kind of stepped away from the company, and it went pretty dang good for quite a while. And but this is not a passive income producing business, in my experience. I got away with it for quite a few years. I needed that time to kind of almost rest from the crazy business. But in the end, I came back to my company. We had a tragedy at work. We had a workplace fatality. It was nobody's fault. It was simply an automobile accident in a truck. But, you know, it created a massive crisis within the company. And I came back to the company every morning after that accident. And I had to be the leader to get us out, get us through. And it did. Within a few months, I had seen enough that was going on at the company to know that, like, that's not how I would do that. And I just kind of spent a lot of time kind of entering the business in a very slow fashion, mostly through observation at the beginning. I didn't have one password to one account. A whole departments had been built since I had been gone, like HR and a lot of different things. And, you know, it didn't match my vision, right? It didn't match what I had kind of designed for what success looked like. So over a few months and working with a mentor, I decided to, you know, terminate my two top managers, $250,000 worth of salary a year. But also they did a whole lot of things that I had no clue. I had problems in areas I didn't know I had areas, right? So, would that have happened if I hadn't, you know, rested on my laurels, sat back, enjoyed? I don't regret any of it. But would the company be better off if I had stayed with my finger on it the whole time? I believe that it would have been better. We would be further down the road. But those are the kind of experiences that you can only get through, you know, living the business. Another thing that I've learned in that experience is you got to have a lot of cash. You got to save your money. That 6 months cost us $400,000 on our profit and loss statement. It was extremely financially expensive, you know. There was external things going on. It was last winter, as you guys know, and then we had 4 major internal things. Our insurance company tried to quadruple our premiums. We had a DOT audit that basically shut us down, all of our trucks. That only lasted 8.5 hours, thank God. And I shut down our out-of-state moving division, which was 20% of revenue, for a full 6 months while we rebuilt the whole thing. So, you know, I never once thought about quitting or giving up. It just isn't an option. This business is really, really tough, and you just gotta gut things out. But what I learned from it is, if I didn't have that 400 grand, if I didn't have that money in the bank, if I was spending that money on lifestyle stuff, or, you know, core capital is a term that defines how much liquid cash you have in the company, and the standard core capital is 3 months expenses. So if you're doing, you know, $400,000 a month, you might have a $250,000 in core expenses. So if I don't do any moves, what does my overhead look like? So you want to have 3 times that. So 3 times that was about 600,000. That was something I learned from a book, right? And I listened. Had I had 100,000 in the bank, I would have been washed out. I would not have been able to pay my leases. I would not have been able to pay my rent on my building. I would have been washed out. So pay attention when things are good. Set money aside, because as everybody knows, things get bad, and one accident can really threaten the existence of your business. So another thing that I have learned over time, you know, I've got 9 houses now. I do employee housing for my staff. It's a way to kind of get my movers even more connected and kind of enmeshed with my business, because as we all know, keeping the good guys in moving is very difficult. You got to really pay them well. But what I've learned about real estate from a book, I'll give you I guess this would be the 4th or 5th read, is what's the one, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? So, you know, you look at what $100 investment will get you back cash on cash return in your moving company, it's pretty bleak. That's why there's not a bunch of private equity companies going around and rolling up a bunch of moving companies, because it's so hard to make a dollar. The cash on cash return is very low. You buy a truck for $130,000. You can just imagine how much revenue you got to do with that truck if you're eking out 6, 8, 10% profit. You got to do $1.5 million of moving with that one truck just to pay for the damn thing. So try to do that in 5 years, it's really tricky, right? So I have found that the returns on real estate, and that's kind of what I'm trying to build for my children, is taking the little bit of money I make from my moving company and make sure I'm investing it in something else, not always just pouring it back into the company. Because guess what your moving pads are worth to your kids? Fucking zero. Guess how much your trucks are worth? Zero. Guess how much your clients are worth? Zero. Your clients are your clients. They're not going to be Bobby's clients. If I sell my company to Bobby, they're going to say, where's Derek? And they're going to say, oh, I don't know Bobby, but Bobby has no value to me. Okay. So that goes back to your reputation. And so I just have, so the reality in my mind, the story I tell myself is this is a cash flow business. This is a business that's going to be good as long as I am on this business like a dog, making sure that everything's going exactly right. But what I need to do is I need to take the cash flow that I generate and get it into a vehicle that's healthier and has legs for my children. I think if you're a 24-year-old kid and your dad gives you an old moving business, he's going to want to kill you. So let's see. I think, are there any questions? Ryan, maybe you can show me how to look at this chat. Does anybody have any questions for me? You can ask me any outrageous thing you want.
Yeah, Derek, I've got a couple for you, a couple quick
Sure.
ones as we got 3 minutes here. One question from the audience, Derek, what is one thing that you are doing right now that is successful, meaning you would recommend everyone here to do now? Basically, is there one thing that you're doing right now that's just absolutely launching you or propelling you that everyone here can do now?
I think that the biggest gap that was holding us back from the past regime, which was my old management team, and now me and my new GM, who are like fully, that was a 1-year process, is getting your top guys up to that $30 an hour mark. And you got to pay for good help, and the turnaround in culture from paying the guys right and treating like them the way you want to, your labor as a percentage of revenue is a big ass chunk, right? And it's really hard to make that investment. And God bless my last management team. They were running the P&L hard. They were riding that labor efficiency ratio really hard at the expense of these guys. And when we came in and I said, no, we're not going to pay $22 an hour to a guy that's been here for 2.5 years, as a good mover. He needs to be making $28 an hour. And things stopped being broken. Turnover stopped. We were able to pick and choose who we wanted to work. So I think, we can do a lot of things with marketing and finances and yada, yada. But if the 3 guys are not, they're walking in the door Saturday morning and they don't feel appreciated and they don't think they're being paid well and they don't think they're being compensated for the god awful job that they have, you're dead in the water.
No, spot on there, Derek. And last question, as we have 2 minutes left. This one should be a rather easy one for you because you're motivating the daylights out of me at this one here. Is how do you motivate yourself every day? Is there a particular routine that you do, or what basically gets your gears going every single morning that you can just bump out and pass that on to your crew, your family, and everybody that's surrounding you?
I mean, over the years, I've developed lots of different tools. So I get up super early. I go for a walk for an hour. I read, I listen, I think, I take notes, I get prepared for my day. I go to the office early. I meditate. I do that thing in the morning. I come to the office, I get right in and I say, okay, what are the biggest problems today? And I start working on long-term solutions for those problems. I'm going out, I'm checking on my guys, I'm making sure that our crews are well fed and well watered. And so the drivers though, I think for me, making sure that my kids have, the most opportunity without being spoiled is a big driver for me. Another big driver for me is travel. Like I've got to do certain things in my company to free me up so that I can leave for 2 weeks and like shut it down. Right. And if I want to do that 16 weeks a year, there's all types of things within my company that I have to invest in, mainly people and processes, to make that possible. I don't want my phone ringing all day long every day. So, and then, coaching and mentoring and incentivizing my staff to, really understand what a white glove, perfectly executed, super difficult move looks like and how to do it every day. And when there's challenges, work with them to make them right by the customer.